When did you come into puberty?
Late, I think. I was 14, really. And I always felt less mature than everybody else. Always. I felt everybody else was grown up, and they were always more experienced. I was always the one sitting, like the girl in the play I'm doing, listening to everybody else's experiences with my mouth open. I think, oh, God, I didn't, anyway. That sort of thing.
And what did you look like? Did you feel that you were
I didn't look old either. I looked terribly young, like now. I don't look a day over 45. Then, I looked about 10 when everybody else looked 18, I was small and thin. And,
did you have lots of friends?
Yeah. I got on well socially. The social skills were quite good, really. God knows why. But, yes, that was always... I had good friends at school. And school was where I found... Yes, my secondary school was where I sort of got some kind of identity for the first time, I think. As a clown, I suppose, on the whole.
How delinquent were you?
I wasn't really a delinquent. I was expelled from school, but I wasn't a delinquent.
Did you shoplift?
No, everybody did, though. And I was too scared. I stood there for hours in Boots with my school beret over a lipstick, and in the end I just got, looking round. And when everybody else had stolen half the beauty counter.
How did it start out for you when you were...
Oh, pretty ropey, really. It was awful. I didn't know anything about it. It was a mystery. It was something that other people did. Do you know what I mean? I didn't lose my virginity till I was 18.
What was that like?
Terribly painful. And, I was totally ignorant, really, and a lot of it's to do with going to a convent school. I blame that school an awful lot on it, and that it was, I've said this before on other programmes, but things that they did actually say, don't cross your legs, you never saw the Virgin Mary cross hers, don't fold your arms, you never saw the Virgin Mary, don't eat chocolate, it's a stimulant. For years, if I had a Mars bar, I'd have an orgasm or something, you know what I mean? And I didn't understand anything about it, and it was alien and appalling and frightening the first time, even though it was with somebody who was a lovely, wonderful person who I still know and is still a close friend. It was still not the best experience in the world, I have to say. And it's only in my 30s that I've felt, in my late 20s and my 30s, that I've felt at home with...
I also read somewhere, also in this quote, that you'd actually been sexually assaulted.
Yes, I was when I was 8, which didn't help, really.
No.
No. Yes, it was a pretty horrific experience, but I never told anybody for years. I only told my mother recently that it had happened. Because at the time I thought it was my fault. I thought it was because I wasn't wearing my school beret. Because the man had sort of said things like that. I was playing with my friends in this huge front garden. And anyway, I won't go into it, but I didn't tell anyone.
Was it terribly grisly?
It was quite frightening.
Yeah.
Yes. I have nightmares about it, and I think I still have nightmares related to it. But how much it affected, people say, must have affected your relationship with men. But I don't know how much it did, particularly, because I had a very good relationship with my own father, and I think that was I knew that this was a very strange man, that most men weren't like that. So, I even then I knew that. Although I'm always been very afraid of going home alone at night and being in the dark, because I was attacked again when I was 14. Maybe it was because I wasn't wearing any clothes. It was absolutely, it's real bad luck, actually. But that wasn't so heavy, but it was very frightening. And always going home after that, no matter how much money I've had, I've always got a taxi, even though I've got no money, because I'm absolutely terrified of being out in the street alone at night.
It actually happens to something like 1 in 10 small girls, apparently.
Yeah.
But do you think, it's the ability to think about it and be conscious of the fact that it happened, and perhaps that's why it hasn't affected you adversely in the end?
Yes, you have to be able to think about it. Yeah, but I never talked about it till I was, I don't know when I first talked about it, in my 20s, I think, and it happened, like 12, 13, 14 years before. I was terrified of telling anyone. I was frightened of anyone finding out. As if it was my fault. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
It's true of lots of people that they feel most real when they're not being themselves when they're pretending to be someone else. And,
Well,
and
because-
that's part and parcel of creativity, obviously.
Yes. That's right. In a way, although you are being someone else, you're putting on another, say, for instance, in When I Was a Girl, I Used to Scream and Shout, which I'm doing at the moment, you're able to voice certain things about yourself sometimes that you've, for some reason, haven't been able to do. I mean, I never cried at all as a kid in public. I never allowed anyone to see me crying. Or to be angry in public. I never not until sort of well into when I went to grammar school did I ever. I remember the first time I did cry in public was when I broke a girl's jaw. Not on purpose, it was with a hockey ball. Dangerous hit. The hockey mistress said. Anyway, I remember I was desperately upset. I couldn't. She was a lovely girl as well. I just have this image of her getting into a taxi with this bandage round her, looking rather ludicrous with a bandage tied, and was holding her head together. It looked as if they undid it, it would all go, you know, like this. Anyway, that was the first time I ever cried. But then, suddenly, I remember the first time I had to cry in something, and it was a totally liberating experience and wonderful. And also, the time I was able to be really angry with somebody, was just wonderful.
So in fact, you might say that a lot of the time you're trying to resolve, it is that you are trying to resolve conflicts.
I think so. I think that anyway, that's what life is sort of about, isn't it? God, that's sounding wanky here. But it is. It's trying to resolve relationships with your parents and your siblings and I do think that actually in the end things don't alter much from the playground. The way I actually solve things now in life is very much the way I did it then. And I think that is the same with a lot of people. Some people go, I want that ball, I want to play with it, and that's the end of it. And some people will find a nice way of getting the ball, even as a child. It's nothing to do with experience or...
But have you ever thought that you should go and see a psychotherapist and make yourself redundant?
Are you suggesting I do? No, I've never actually had a...
You're a bubbly and jolly sort of person. To what extent do you think this is a cover-up for really feeling rather depressed?
I'm not a depressive, but I'm anxiety-ridden. I think it's probably more an expression of that rather than a cover-up. It's like something frightens you, it makes you laugh. Do you know what I mean? Panicky situations make people laugh often, and even if it is hysterically. So it's probably an extension of that. I think humour comes from that anyway. I don't come from a depressive type family, see what I mean? We're all... You can smell the anxiety from 2 miles away from my house, But we all... I don't mean that I am now anxious about every single thing, but it is something that drives me. It's a sort of general nervousness, I mean,
would you say 37? Do you think you're a grown-up? Do you think you've matured? You are a mature person?
No. In some ways I've matured, yes, yeah. Relationships are better and things like that.
In what way?
I suppose I've what they call mellowed, really. I'm not as frightened of life as I was. It's very general, but...
And what do you think a grown-up is?
I think somebody who has accepted things about themselves, really, and actually likes themselves. Because they're always the people you like, yourself. And I think, yes, and up to a point that's happened, but I mean, I still have insecurities, and certain things can happen, and I revert to a 3-year-old,
How genuine would you say you're being now, when you're in front of a television camera? Compared to, say, when you're sitting at home with your boyfriend?
Well, obviously, I'm not as... I know that there's a camera here and that people are going to be watching it. So if I was at home, I may well be sort of sitting like this. It's quite possible. I do this quite a lot. People ask me, where did they get the hump from Mrs. Overall? It's very embarrassing, considering it's my own vertebrae. And I wouldn't be concerned with my clothes. I'm not that concerned with my clothes, but I wouldn't come dressed in something with tea stains down the front, which I might possibly have on at home. Well, I'm not an old slut, really. I think I'm being as open as I would be in front of a television camera.